All right, welcome to the show today. I am so excited to have my friend Doug Clyde on our show, who is the musician extraordinaire, who has worked with other people that we know that have been on the show as well. And I want to welcome you, Doug. Do you want to give the listeners a little bit of background on you and all of your accomplishments, which are too many to list right here?
Yes, I can go into too much detail about everything, so I'll try to keep it brief and you can stop me if I start rambling.
Okay, well, we'll just jump right in then.
Alrighty. So, yes, I'm a musician. I started playing clarinet when I was 10 years old. Started getting good at it at about ninth grade. Was first chair of the concert band at the time. My band teacher was Mr. Wood, very encouraging, a lot of personal time and one-on-one private lessons he gave me. He encouraged me to start playing other woodwind instruments, tenor saxophone to help out with the stage band, and the oboe in order to get more scholarships, according to him. See, I moved on to during high school. My high school band teacher was also very encouraging. Ended up being first chair of the wind ensemble my senior year. Started playing the recorder as well, and that's when I started doing performance in musicals. And musicals, I've done a lot. There's been about 43 different productions, mostly in the orchestra pit, but I have been on stage and backstage a couple of times.
That must be really exciting to be in the orchestra pits, I would think.
It's an easier job than being on stage, that's for sure.
Well, but you've also been on stage.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about that. I know because it's interesting. You hear a lot of people that are really specialized and focused in one area, but Doug, you've done so many different things in the world of music that it would be mind-boggling for people to just really understand the depth of work that you've done.
Hmm. Let's see, back in 2002, I started taking professional voice lessons from Carol Keddington, excellent teacher. I think she's in Indianapolis right now. And about 2005, I was good enough to join a professional opera company called the Utah Light Opera, which
Mhm.
unfortunately went bankrupt a while
Oh
back.
my goodness.
But it
Oh,
did
that's
give
too
me,
bad.
yeah, that happens a lot. But that did give me an opportunity to be in several shows, lots of Christmas concerts. Got to perform at Rose Wagner stage here in Salt Lake City and the Egyptian Theater out in Park City, made famous by Sundance and all those film things. And I did occasionally be on stage for other productions, for like, gosh, there was like community things.
And how did you so people that watch this show, they probably know about Kelly Richardson, um,
Hmm.
who, you're the world's greatest musician and he's the world's greatest composer. So so how did the world's greatest musician meet the world's greatest composer?
Ooh, that was a while ago. Also, back in 2000, see, it was 2001, I went to a symphony concert of I think a local orchestra because my friend was playing cello in it. We wanted to go see him. And we couldn't help but notice the first chair violin player because he's very, very exuberant and very dramatic when he plays. And they were playing Carmina Burana. And we enjoyed it. So we went back to their next concert in December and
Mhm.
saw them again. And went with my sister. And of course, we were pretty much watching Kelly the whole time. So after the concert, we went backstage and we talked to him. And my sister is the one that went up to him first. She says, the typical thing he hears all the time, like, we love watching you play. He says, oh, yeah, yeah, I watch the professionals and that's what they do. So that's what I do. And that was the same time I also talked with the director of the orchestra and joined the next January playing clarinet.
That's so would you say out of everything that you play, the clarinet is your number one instrument, or would you say that well, would you say that your voice is a better instrument than the clarinet for you? Like, which one
Oh
do you
boy.
feel
Well, clarinet
more?
was the first, and it's probably still the best.
And how many clarinet players are there in the world? Do you know?
Oh boy, a lot. I mean, like amateur, professional, like virtuoso.
Well, how many virtuosos are there?
Not many. Richard Stoltzman is one that comes to mind, but I haven't seen him perform in, gosh, like 20 years. There's professional orchestras around the world, but they only usually have two or three clarinet players.
So, is that something that you like to do on a regular basis? Like if a orchestra calls you and says, "Hey, we need a clarinet," are you doing those jobs now, or kind of where are you these days in the music world?
Hmm.
What are the things that you're doing?
Live performance, not so much anymore. I do a lot of music recording now, so I'm more of a recording artist. And I guess we can go back to starting music albums. Let's see, back 2002, I was working at a local sheet music store, and Kelly worked there as well, but he didn't start for a few years after that. They put me in charge of selling the music notation software.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I fell in love with it. I bought my own copy, started using it at home, and started composing my own pieces. I mean, I had composed stuff when I was a teenager on like a piano and a keyboard at home, but nothing ever written down. And yeah, I just started writing songs. And I think the first album was released in 2005. And first two albums, not so great, because that's what happens. You learn in the process, but didn't really start getting good at it till 2007, which is also the point I started getting into music sampling. Do you want me to go into detail about that?
It's really interesting. I think you should because there are probably a lot of people on here that they they're producing YouTube videos. They're looking for ways around like how do you get good music for those videos or if they have corporate shorts that they're doing something like that. You've done a lot for those types of projects, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was also the fault of the local orchestra Kelly and I were in. There's a friend of ours named James Koenig. He was the local composer that was with the orchestra, and he's the one that introduced me to professional music samples. He brought his laptop one day and started playing a piece that he had composed, and the sound just blew me away because before then we had just heard MIDI and other stuff that was just terrible. So basically, music sampling, what they do, let's give a piano as an example. They record every single note. So they play every single note and record it one at a time. And then they play it at every single dynamic level. So they do it soft and they do it loud, and they store all that in the computer. So you compose a piece and you play it back through the computer picks the appropriate note and the appropriate dynamic level and plays it back that way. And they've recorded it so that they hit it and they record the whole trail off. So it just results in an extremely realistic sound. And they've done that with various instruments, like most instruments these days. And you can like record what's called a virtual orchestra if you can't afford a professional orchestra to perform your pieces, like most of us can't.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of an investment to do that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, what would you say the role of I know my husband is also a musician on the side, and one of the things that he's always commented on is sort of the role in all of these synths and all this stuff that have come into the music business that is it's all synthetic stuff. But at the same time, if you can make it work and sound realistic and good and um have it sound better than what you might think coming out of a synthesized version of something. Um, do you think that's going to get better, or what are your thoughts around that? You think?
Mm. Quality has definitely improved since I started, that's for sure.
Hmm.
Huge has it been since 2007. They were pretty basic back then. These days, so much better.
Hmm.
My favorite band And favorite contemporary composer is Chip Davis of Mannheim Steamroller.
Love those guys. The Christmas music is awesome.
So basically, my music is mostly modeled after that. Chip describes it as somewhere in the middle. It's not all acoustic. It's not all synthetic. It's somewhere in between. So
Mhm.
I use synthetics. I use virtual instruments. I record things myself. It's just a mixture of all of that stuff together.
Well, and where do you have if the music that you're recording? I know there's a company out there and Pond Five that is where you can find the things that you're creating. Did you have anything that you'd like to tell the people that are watching this about that and how they might be able to find your favorite clips of what you've done?
Hmm. Well, Pond 5 is a website that sells royalty-free music and royalty-free videos. So basically what that is, filmmakers, YouTube makers, video makers will come along and they need music for their videos and they can't create stuff themselves. So they go to a website called Pond 5 and then they purchase the music or the videos they need for their own video projects to put those in and legally. And it won't come up with any type of copyright claims on YouTube and all of that. And I've got a lot of my music out there. I put a lot of my music album stuff on there. I've got 15 music albums at this point. So a lot of that stuff is on there as long as it's original composition by me or it's in the public domain.
I think I've listened to at least 10 of your albums. I'm not sure I've listened to the early ones though.
Yeah, I mean, 2007 was when I started actually getting good at it somewhat. Kelly's music was featured on one called Digital Fingers back in 2010. Because Kelly and I have been working together to produce music ever since 2007. Because when I first got those orchestra music samples, he needed somebody to record his orchestral compositions. So we started doing something. He was composing something for like a children's audio book at the time. So we recorded a whole bunch of stuff like that.
Well, and you're one of the major, if not the other major force behind Seven Tales of Poe.
Hmm.
You have done a lot on that project.
That was released in, how long has it been now? 2001. That is the latest album. This is a massive composition by Kelly Joe Richardson, the world's greatest living composer. It's a piece by solo. It's for solo viola and full orchestra, and it's, of course, about Edgar Allan Poe and his stories, featuring seven of them. A few poems in there as well, so it's not just those seven. But it wouldn't be as catchy if you called it "The Seven Tales, Two Poems, and an Intro" by Edgar Allan Poe.
No, no, no. I think I think he appropriately named it.
But he composed that and like finished in 2019, I believe, and there's a whole story about that on your YouTube channel and how he did that. So I don't need to go into details. But he sent me the files day after Christmas 2019, and we worked on it a lot, hundreds of hours over the next year and a bit.
And it is an awesome piece, really. When you listen to it all the way through, there's just so much there. And I can't even imagine the number of hours the two of you spent on that.
It still goes down as far as work is concerned, the hardest thing I've ever done.
How so? Is it just the size of it or what?
The size and the scope, and Kelly, I like to say, Kelly doesn't write for babies. Kelly is very good at writing for live musicians and live, very professional musicians because he knows exactly what each instrument can do. He can push them to the edge. And that for a computer to duplicate is incredibly difficult. There's a reason why film scores these days are all simple because the computer sounds good doing specific, simple things.
Well, that's very interesting to know. I bet I didn't know that, and I bet most people don't.
Yeah, film scores you hear a lot of short strings and long horns. And But sounds good on a computer with the samples. But with Kelly's piece, we had to go in and just every grace note, every dynamic level, every articulation, just absolutely everything, editing one little thing at a time until it sounded correct.
Well, with your music though, that you create, the music that you've done, I know that you've got Mannheim Steamroller as sort of your ideal. Is that less complicated?
Mm, in a way, yes. For example, I did an album of the Nutcracker, like 18, 14, 18 pieces from the Nutcracker. But
Yes, and I thought that was well
I did
done.
it, yeah, I did it electronically. So inspired by Mannheim Steamroller, it's a mixture of synthetics and acoustic. And that one took roughly 200 hours to put the music notes into the computer. So I took my big Nutcracker scorebook. I've got it over there somewhere, and I inputted the notes one at a time into my music notation software, and that took roughly 200 hours. And then the recording process was about 150 hours. I recorded a lot of the woodwind solos myself and did a mixture, like I said, with the mixture of the synthetics and the music samples, virtual orchestra. And
So what
then it takes another 300 or so for the album creation, the digital distribution, the marketing, the website updating, the social media, and all that stuff.
and you've done all of these things. You
Yeah.
have you actually have been, because a lot of times people will go, okay, I need somebody for this, I need somebody for this, I need somebody for this, but you're the somebody for all of it.
They had the copyrights, the album creation, the distribution, the marketing, the creation, the recording, the mixing. Yeah, all of it.
So if a musician wants to, maybe there are musicians out there that are kind of struggling with the whole process of getting something out there from start to finish. And they they're they're at a loss for who can help them. Would you be the person that could help them from start to
It,
finish? Just get
from
them going?
from the start to the finish. Ooh, that's very possible. Thanks to your encouragement, I've added some service to websites called Udemy and Fiverr. Fiverr is the website where you can hire me to do a virtual orchestra of your piece, but it has to be composed already and have like a MIDI file and a sheet music so I can see exactly what you want. Udemy is a website where I'm teaching online courses. There's one, let's see, what is it called? It's available right now. It's for converting piano MIDI into professional audio recordings. So basically, what I already talked about, taking the sheet music or MIDI file that you send me and turn it into just a professional recording using the music samples.
Well, and there's something in here for everyone, because you also have a class on doing Facebook ads,
Mm-hmm.
which for people that are in any business that want to kind of take that under their own wing and learn that, you can teach that for musicians or anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had social media accounts since at least 2007, and gosh, I've done a lot of advertising. It's mostly advertising YouTube videos. So I've got a lot of experience advertising YouTube videos.
Well, and you did a lot of work on Seven Tails, and I mean, you do have your channel Albedo, that that's out there as well for people to see. They
Yep,
can. You have almost everything posted on that channel, don't you?
I think so. Yeah. When I release albums, I release under the pseudonym Albedo. So it's Albedo. The YouTube channel is Albedo Music. That's one word.
So
And
tell us a
I've
little
had,
bit about that name, Doug.
yeah, yeah, well, my YouTube channel is 17 years old at this point.
Oh my goodness, you've been at this for a while.
Been doing this a while. Let's see, the name Albedo was a nickname that I had in high school. I was very much into astronomy during school, and it's just one of those scientific terms that's used to measure the amount of light that's reflected off a surface like, the moon or a planet. And the scientific term is pronounced albedo, I found out many years later, but I've always pronounced it albedo. It
Yeah,
was
I
just
know, because I pronounce it
distinguishes between the
Albedo.
scientific term and the and my artist name.
Well, I think it's and you've done other things in show business as well. I mean, you've done some acting,
Mhm,
and in fact, you just did a trip to Universal with Jimmy Good, who's
mhm,
another actor. So tell
mhm.
us a little bit about that. I mean, I thought you guys did a great job on those videos.
Yeah. Yeah, background acting. I've done a lot of background acting for local films and a lot of YouTube channels, and went to Universal Studios for my birthday just a few months ago and met up with my buddy Jimmy Good. He's working as an actor in Los Angeles currently, and also as a vlogger at theme parks. So we got together at Universal Studios, and we were there on John Williams' birthday, technically, and uh, and it didn't rain on us while we were there, but it rained
That's
pretty much the
awesome.
entire time, the other time that I was there, which was only a couple of days. But you can find Jimmy Good and myself in some videos at Universal Studios on his YouTube channel. He is at his name, Jimmy Good. If you just type that in, you should be able to find it. I think the exact name of the channel is Jimmy Good YT, so JIMMYGOODYT.
Interesting stuff because he's got a wide range of videos on his channel as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did a video together called Then and Now Universal Studios. So the last time I had been at Universal Studios was in 2013. So I supplied him a whole bunch of with a bunch of pictures, and then he compared then to now. So all my pictures compared to what it was like in 2024 now. And that's a video of us together wandering around Universal Studios and trying to kind of recreate some of those photos and comparing what it looked like back then.
And that takes a lot of work to be able to compile all that. You guys put a lot of time into that.
Yeah, that was mostly Jimmy. He did the filming, he did the editing. So shout out to him for that one.
Well, and speaking of John Williams, okay, this is a fun fact that I didn't know until maybe a week and a half ago. And that is that his son is the lead singer of Toto.
Yep,
I
that
didn't know
is
that.
that is Joseph Williams.
Yeah, I did not know that. My husband's like, "Yeah, that's John Williams' son. Didn't you know that?"
Hmm. And I believe he also wrote the lyrics to the song sung in The Return of the Jedi, Star Wars, the original version, the one that's
Joel,
sung by
Joel,
Miss Snooty. I hear my heart a pumping, dun dun dun.
he really wrote that?
He wrote the lyrics in English, and then they translated it to Bocce or whatever that made up language is.
Well, that's interesting. Now, have you ever met John Williams or anybody like that from all of your musical travels?
I have never had the privilege, but I did have a trip to Mannheim Steamroller out in Omaha, Nebraska. I took an Amtrak train, went out to their warehouse, got a private tour by Chip's daughter Kelly, and just met up with one of his employees who also plays multiple woodwind instruments and musicals. His name is Tom Hardig. Hi, Tom. And yeah, that's about as close as I got.
But that's interesting. He's been a hero of yours for a long time.
That does remind me. Yeah, I released a video on my YouTube channel about 2010 or so, I think, called Carol of the Birds. This was a cover of the Mannheim Steamroller of Carol of the Birds, where I play five different recorders of different sizes and compile them together. And I sent it to my friend Tom, who then sent it off to Chip, who saw it and said that he liked it.
Well, that must have been high compliment for you.
Very big. I mean, later on when I did an Indiegogo campaign for a future album, Chip Davis actually donated to that.
Really?
So,
That is
so that was
awesome.
awesome. That was an album of covers of video game music from Final Fantasy VI.
Well, and speaking of different types of music that you've done, the Tesla coil.
Yes.
Well, of course, Tesla's on everybody's minds right now, but not necessarily that. So, do you want to tell the watchers and listeners a little bit about the Tesla coil and what that represents?
Yes, Tesla coil. I'm sure everybody has seen one. They just don't necessarily know the name. It's named after the inventor. And how am I even going to be able to describe it? It basically produces electricity that shoots off into the air. And there's such a thing called a musical Tesla coil that can vibrate, vibrates at certain specific frequencies that create certain tones, which is what we hear as music. And you can produce music with that, which is also funny because an alternate name for a musical Tesla coil is called a Zeusophone.
I have never heard that.
And I bought a small one. It's a pretty tiny one, not too terribly dangerous, but it has burned me once. And I've been doing some recordings of just recordings of cover songs, and I've been putting those on my YouTube channel, just compiling different Tesla coils together, doing trios and quartets.
And would you be able to do could that add to what you have on Pod 5? Could you put those on would those do you think they would sell or
I believe so. There is one on Pond 5 already. It's a Tesla coil trio of Flight of the Bumblebee.
very nice. Very nice. So, as you're thinking about all these lovely things that you do, Doug, what is the one right now that you're focusing most on?
Oh, I'm probably focusing most on music albums and Pond 5.
And what about the courses? Would it be well, let me just back up. I'm going to back up on that question. So if there's a musician out there that needs help from start to finish, or even in the middle, are you someone that they could call and you could work with them just to help them through whatever obstacle they're facing?
Hmm, it's possible. I mean, the only clients I have currently are the ones that I know, Kelly and a few other friends. But I guess I could open it up depending on the person and what their needs are.
Well, because you have such a just a vast amount of experience in the business. You could consult on just about anything to get somebody out there. And there was an interesting article that I sent you on it, and I didn't quite understand all the dynamics of it. It was a Ted Joya article. What were your thoughts on that article?
Yes, that article talks about mood music and how popular it is on, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all those streaming platforms. Basically, people aren't looking up artists necessarily anymore. I mean, there's the Taylor Swifts, of course, and all of that are incredibly popular. But a lot of musicians are making a lot of money just streaming what's called mood music. They label it as like music for studying, music for sleeping, music for relaxing. People use streaming services these days as just like background music while they're working or cleaning or whatever. And so these things get a lot of streams. I mean, how many did that guy have? Like a billion
Oh,
streams?
it was unbelievable. And he was relatively unknown and he would go under different names.
Hmm.
His even his real name was unknown, but then he would make up all these other ones and he would create these shorts or whatever it was. Very interesting. He has more spins than Michael Jackson did, I think, is one of the
Yeah,
stats that was quoted in that article. So, is that something you could do with all the shorts that you've done?
it's very possible. I mean, Kelly and I can like throw stuff together for that kind of thing. I've thought about doing mood music before, and I would probably mostly have that on Pond 5, but I might release it as albums as well if I get enough of it.
And of course, people could use that in their videos. They could the Pond 5 stuff, it's it's for there's probably something out there that you've done for everyone too. Wouldn't you say?
I hope so. I mean, there's piano pieces, there's full orchestral stuff, there's things from the Nutcracker and from the Carnival of the Animals. I've got Irish bagpipes and pipe organ, uh, boys choir. Just trying to think of everything else that I've done on there. It's just a whole bunch of different things.
And making the world a better place, that's for sure.
I hope so.
Well, I have to say, when I listened to the Nutcracker pieces that you did, I thought you did a wonderful job on those.
That is the peak of my Mannheim Steamroller style, if you want to call it that.
Are you still looking at doing things along those lines in that style?
Yes, but I would need to do an upgrade. My very trusty computer from 2007 has recently went kaput. It's a big fancy Mac Pro that was rather expensive at the time, but lasted all these years. Has helped me produce all these albums, and it's the only one that had all the synthetics on it. So I will need to have to do an upgrade to get back into the synthetics.
So do you have to do if it so if the computer died, then do you just have to pull that off of it for another computer, or how will that work for you?
That's very possible. I'd have to try. I mean, the software I was using still exists today. Of course, very new version of it. And will it transfer? I would have to experiment and find out.
Well, it's interesting. So this is another thing that you can do for musicians, especially if they've had a hardware issue. You can help them
Mm,
through that too.
yeah, it's always the problem finding a computer, powerful enough and has enough storage, especially storage. High quality music takes up a lot.
Well, and what about cloud though? Can you store that stuff in the cloud?
Yep, I've been doing that too.
Interesting stuff. Well, what else would you like to share with our listeners and watchers today about your career, what you want to do next? I mean, you've done so many things. It's hard to choose, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, lately I've been enjoying most doing the music albums and doing the Pawn 5 stuff. You can find me on, albedomusic.com is probably the best spot because I'm on Spotify and Apple Music and all of that. Various examples are did a video game soundtrack back in 2011 for a local independent game, which probably I don't think they have available anymore, but the soundtrack did pretty well and got nominated by the Independent Music Awards for Best
Wow.
Soundtrack Album of the Year. So that went off pretty well. Like you said, I've got synthetic versions of classical pieces. I've done Holt's The Planets, Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker. I've done original compositions about space probes that's similar in style to Mannheim Steamroller. And of course, the latest one has been The Seven Tales of Poe.
And that's a just one awesome piece of music. I love it. I'm a big fan. So I'm a big fan of the people that created it.
Mm-hmm. I recommend watching that one on my Vimeo channel because that is ad free. And I believe I'm also Albedo Music on Vimeo. And I think it's easiest to find that on Kelly's website. So he is kellyjoericardson.com. You just go to the video tab and you can see that there.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing about all of your musical pursuits. And I do look forward to the next time because I know you're going to be coming out with something else awesome, even if it's the Tesla coil, or you'll think of something else new to do.
Testicoil might be next. We'll see.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Doug.
Yep. Always a pleasure.
We're done. Yes. So, it's over.